Hello and welcome back to another session of Urban Shadows London 1604. We're here at a actual play organized through the Gauntlet community. You can learn more about them at gauntlet-rpg.com. The game we're playing this evening, Urban Shadows, a game of supernatural urban politics published by Magpie Games. Check them out. They make good stuff. And our particular supernatural political city is London in the year 1604, in the reign of King James, the 6th of Scotland and 1st of England. And we have been, in our first session, learning a little about the supernatural underworld of this city, who it is that's lurking in these shadows, vampires and fae, wizards, and veterans of dealing with all this. So let's, without any further ado, meet our party of players and characters. I'll have you guys introduce yourselves in character keeper order from left to right, telling me a little about saying your name, saying if there's a place for folks to follow you on the internet, and then introducing your characters briefly and giving, by way of recap, a detail or a moment or a discovery from your character's adventures last time. I should start by saying that I am Alexi. You can follow my gaming exploits on Twitter at Cloven Pine Games, and pronouns he, him. I'm excited to be back running another session of Urban Shadows set in London of the early modern era. All right, take us away, Jesse.
I am Jesse. The internet is terrifying. I'm playing Yeftin ibn Idir, the Corsair, codenamed the Corsair, pronouns he, him. My pronouns are also he, him. The veteran playbook, the Berber former spy master for Elizabeth, who has put himself out to pasture with the rise of James. But James would probably like to know where I am and what I've been up to, even though, in fact, it has been nothing. I'm really trying to stay out of things. For some reason, King Oberon of the Autumn Court is looking for me. Hopefully he won't find me. We'll see.
Thanks very much. Kyle, why don't you introduce us to your character and yourself?
Hi, I'm Kyle, he, him. I'm playing Ariel Oakley, she, her. She is a from the Fae court of Queen Titania, and was formerly on loan to Queen Elizabeth until her death. And yes, last turn she learned that her, rival in the city is from the court of King Oberon, is after Yeftin.
I'll also point out that you disguised yourself as one of these rival fae from the Autumn Court in order to deceive a lower-ranking Autumn fae. Is that right?
Yes, I disguised myself as Walter Rich to bluff our way past some of Oberon's enforcers, guards.
This raises a question for me. I figure we might as well take care of this now. The corruption move for the Fae is when you break a promise or tell an outright lie, mark corruption. Do you feel that your deception of the other Fae counted as an outright lie?
Oh, I don't remember my exact words. Wait, no, I think I did tell an outright lie. You're right. So yeah, that was a corruption.
All right, go ahead and mark that corruption, please. And let's move on to Steven. Tell us about yourself and your character.
Hey there, I'm Steven, he, him. I am playing Catherine D, the wizard and daughter of the now ostracized as well as kidnapped English alchemist John D. Last session, I conducted a scrying ritual for our next character, Lord Francis. as well as attracting the attention of a dark-winged angel before my aforementioned father was kidnapped.
That's right. A lot going on for Catherine D, to be honest. So we'll see how all the pieces fit together this session. And last but certainly not least, Leah, why don't you tell us about yourself and the character you're playing?
So I'm playing a recusant Catholic vampire noble. Lord Francis is the kind of person whose plan for solving the problem of how do I explain I'm now immortal is I will pretend to be my own son and fake a charming reconciliation on my deathbed with his heir, also me. In his spare time, when not being a figure of, just abject ridiculousness, he uses his reputation to help him smuggle Catholics around the country. And his most recent Catholic, a young fervent priest, has snuck off, and I discovered by going to Catherine D that he is hearing confessions in the tower, and that an agent of Lord Cecil has overheard him.
Quite a predicament, I must say. Then I think let's jump right into it with Catherine D and Lord Francis Fenton, because the very last thing we saw, and correct me if I miss a detail here, but the very last thing we saw was John D, Catherine's father, being snatched by several men who'd come to the door, and as he's pulled away, the only piece of evidence left was a single black feather falling across the threshold as Lord Francis and Catherine arrive. Catherine, what do you do? And you're muted.
I do actually have the sword, and I just sort of keep it in a kind of umbrella stand, cane stand, just by the door. Just kind of grab it out of there and go running outside. And do I see the cart still? Do I see them still like making off?
Ooh. Yeah, I think you probably see like a hood being pulled over your father's head as he's like bundled into the back of a dark unmarked carriage, as these men are like, one of them's running around to leap up to the driver's seat and spur the horses forward. You've got a sword, you say?
Yeah.
Like a fancy sword or quite utilitarian?
Probably not totally utilitarian, because it was probably decorative until like we took it down and I decided to keep it rather than selling it off with the rest of our furniture.
Gotcha. Yeah. What do you do standing on the doorstep, sword in hand?
Well, fulfilling my promise, I note, of course, that Sir Francis, of course, has a carriage that I assume he's taken here, correct?
That is certainly correct. I do not walk.
Probably Lord Francis's butler Bartholomew is like standing by the door of the carriage with like a parasol open. We believe that Lord Francis is able to walk in the sunlight, but presumably it's more comfortable for him to have someone there shielding him, so that from carriage to door he's exposed to as little sunlight as possible.
Yeah. And is there a driver in the seat?
Why do you ask?
Oh, I just wanted to kick him out if he was sitting there.
Yeah, sure. Kick out Lord Francis's driver.
Yeah, because of course, like usually I would prefer to be a bit more delicate but the situation does not really call for it. So of course I kind of leap up into the driver's seat and kind of kick his driver aside and say, "I'm sorry about this, Sir Francis, but I must borrow your carriage for the moment." I shout back into my house.
Lord Francis, what are you doing?
Well, the thing I'm inclined to do is, I know the carriage is unmarked, but the men are all swirling around, and I'm wondering if it's possible to put a face to a name for any of them.
Oh, just seeing if you know these folks. Yeah, I
I
think
have a higher than average number of unsavory contacts, what with all my Catholic smuggling.
a very good point. Very good point. Yeah, these look like rough guys, the kind that might be hired for any number of unsavory jobs. Go ahead and roll. And let me just check that I remember exactly how that move works. Interesting. Go ahead and roll with mortality for this one.
I'm therefore rolling at +2, so that would be an 11. So looks like that throws me into GM tells me what most people know, and I've dealt with them before. I either learn something interesting or they owe me a debt. So I'd love to start with what most people know, and then I'll decide between the debt and the detail.
Yeah, absolutely. You recognize you recognize the person who seems to be the leader of this group of men. Go into my name drive. There are only like 3 names for men in this era. I know there's more, but I feel like everyone's a Roger or whatever. We're gonna say, yeah, we're gonna say you recognize the man leading this crew as Cuthbert Lacey, and he is kind of a like a court fixer, right? Like he probably has some kind of serving man title, like your butler does, but in point of fact, he's loaned among a number of prominent court members when they need something done a little more sub rosa. Probably he's got a nasty scar somewhere. So yeah, you want to know something more interesting, or you want him to owe you a debt?
I'm going to take the debt.
Okay, then give me a little sense. Why do you think Cuthbert Lacey might owe a debt to Lord Francis?
I think it's possible. I have 2 ideas based off of stuff we've established about the character, and you can pick. Either I've supplied him with something he couldn't get on his own, that's an embarrassing thing to ask for, or I have disappeared someone for him, though not in a manner he understands.
Yeah, let's say you've disappeared someone for him.
Sweet.
Yeah, some embarrassing witness that a court lady needed disposed of got sent via him to you and presumably to your hunting grounds at your country estate.
Sweet. Then I think if this works for you, GM, I might be inclined to let Ariel make off with my carriage for now, because I think I have a sense of where they might be going. I'm going to see if I manage to beat them there.
An interesting plan. What do you say anything to sorry, not Ariel, Catherine.
Sorry, Catherine. Whoops.
Do you say anything to Catherine D?
I think I say, I'll regard that as a deposit for the next time I call upon your services. Bartholomew with me.
Don't even acknowledge the driver, probably still swearing down in the mud.
The butler makes his way to your side, Lord Francis. Meanwhile, Catherine, the cart that you're chasing has set off, right? Kind of careening down the street, and you whip the horses and follow them. And if that's all right, I think we'll cut away from that scene for the moment.
Okay.
All right. When we last saw Yefton and Ariel, they had made their way out of a Fey ambush at the establishment that Yefton is a regular at, the Hound and Stag, sneaking out the back way past Auburn by convincing him that there were superseding orders from King Oberon. And oh yeah, do you have mortality marked already, Leah? Okay, fair enough. Okay, Yefton and Ariel, you seem to be at liberty. You'd been discussing the situation of young Pentecost Jones in imprisonment before what happened with the Fae. So I guess I want to know, as you're walking through the narrow and crowded streets of London under King James, what do you do? Yefton first.
If I remember correctly, I don't remember who it was, but Ariel said she had a connection to get us into the prison to see Pentecost Jones.
Yeah, I think
I believe she was going to hit the streets.
I think that might be accurate. Ariel, do you recall who your connection was, or want to author a new one to look into this matter?
I don't think I'd picked a name yet, but I'm happy to do that.
And I'll remind you, the ghost of Christopher Marlowe is now also in play. Since our knight characters were a little thin on the ground, I thought we should add a specter.
Let's see. I think my contact at Newgate Prison is, let's go with Barnaby Lodge.
Barnaby Lodge, and why is he a contact of yours? What's brought the two of you together before?
I think I did him a favor a while. Yeah, I think he stumbled his way into Titania's court, and I got him out without too many consequences for him.
Did he at any point in this process have a donkey's head?
No, not quite. But...
Okay. Thanks to your timely intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So you got him out of Titania's court. He's remained a mortal in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think go ahead and hit the streets with mortality. See it, and we'll find out if he's got what you need.
Sorry, pulling up roll for your party.
Do you need the link to that? I can drop it in the chat.
If you don't mind.
Yep.
But I got 7.
Ah, very good. Well, first mark mortality. Honestly, this should work well, I'd say. Yeah, I think you know that he's not on duty today. Oh, let me ask, Yefton, are you coming with Ariel here, sticking together and remaining in the scene?
So I think when Ariel, sorry again, Ariel or Ariel? I keep on.
Ariel.
Okay. Yeah. I sort of when she mentions that she has this connection, I sort of like, and that she wants to speak to him. I say, may I come, or is it better if you don't have company?
Oh, yes, please come. It'd be best. I think it's best that I keep my eyes on you until I find out what exactly Oberon wants.
I say, very well. Of course. Excellent. So, yeah, I'm coming along.
Great. Yeah, so on Barnaby's day off, you're likely to find him at the bear baiting pits. And so I think, like, he's he's there, right? In his accustomed spot, cheering on Sackerson, the famous bear, who's made making a good show today for those that are into this sort of thing. And when you, I don't know, how do you approach the favor you're asking of him?
I think Ariel goes out of her way to be a little bit dramatic with her approach. Like spots Barnaby, spots Barnaby in the crowd, works her way around to the opposite end of the bear baiting pit, and then like waits for him to look up so she can just like dramatically like hello.
she's probably like better dressed than most of the people present here.
Oh yes, she stands out.
Yeah, not that the upper classes didn't enjoy a bit of bear baiting, but it sounds like you're moving among the groundlings at the moment, and presumably, considered a bit eccentric for doing so. Barnaby spots you, kind of tips his hat, and wends his way over to where you and Yefton are. Milady Oakley, always an honor to see you around these parts.
Indeed, dear Barnaby. This is my great old friend Yefton. We have come to you because we must inform you of a gross miscarriage of justice. A righteous soul has been unlawfully interred in your prison, and we need your help getting
time.
Well, yes, but I care about this one.
All right. Give me the name. I'll see what I can do.
Yes, it's Pentecost Jones.
Yeah, his eyebrows shoot up at that. He's like, "Oh, wee little serving wench. Look, I don't know why everyone seems so interested in her, but she just got transferred from Newgate to the Tower."
The Tower, you say?
He nods gravely. I can... Well, I've got a buddy there. Could arrange for you to have a chat, but it's a bit of a... This isn't just a simple, latch and key operation.
I see. I look over at Yefton, like, do you know anything about the tower?
I may have visited someone there once, twice, a few times. If he can get us in, I know my way around.
Barnaby sighs. All right. I can get you in, milady. Lord, he says questioningly to Yefton.
Just Yefton.
Nods. But look, I don't go doing this for just anyone. So I expect you'll both, keep this in mind for when the time comes when I need a friend. All right?
I will indeed owe you one, sir.
Yeah. So you're both going to owe him a debt to get you in here.
Remind me his name?
Barnaby Lodge. Yep. And he'll go into the NPC sheet when I get a moment. Oh yeah, by the way, note the illustrations in the NPC sheet. went through and found a number. And if there's someone who's like, that's not how I picture them at all, let me know. These are just a kind of beginning to imagining all these characters. All right, I think we'll leave the two of you for a moment because we have a sense of where we might spot you next. Sir Francis, Lord Francis, I want to check in because it sounded like you had some kind of theory of where you could intersect Cuthbert Lacey.
Well, I feel like I've met him before when he was doing murder-adjacent kidnapping things. And he doesn't seem like a man who's paid to be creative. So, if I were picking the location, I would bet a warehouse in the shipping district. But
that's certainly not crazy. You just proceed on foot with Bartholomew next to you, heading to like a particularly shady warehouse to see if that's where they turn up.
Well, can I turn into a bat? It doesn't specify. I said I don't walk anywhere. The playbook doesn't say I don't turn into a bat.
I
Fair.
think there's a corruption move for that, isn't there?
Is there?
Oh, I think it's like blood magic lets you
have
cast
fairy powers.
yeah, which one of it just turning into animals.
Lord Francis, if you want to travel speedily and unnoticed through the city by becoming a bat or a swarm of bats even, I think I'd ask you to let it out.
I'd be delighted. Let's see.
Tell us first what it looks like and like where you're doing this.
Yeah, I think I gesture to Bartholomew and he knows exactly what I want. I want my turning into bat's cape. Which he takes out of the bag he pulled off the carriage.
He opens the carpet bag and it's just capes for all occasions.
And it's obviously the turning into bats cape doesn't actually play any role in my turning into bats. It's just that, it both lets me be more shadowy in an alley, and I feel it kind of adds to the whole experience. Even though no one is meant to see it, you should live your life as though there were an audience. So I step into an alley, tell him the address, and ask him to hire a hansom and just bring any other supplies I might need. And I go into the alley to turn into bats. Let's see. That's plus spirit, so that's a -1 for me. That would be a 5. Perhaps I'm now too many bats.
Oh boy. Yeah. I think the thing is, yeah, you're definitely become a swarm of bats, and kind of like rise up from this alley. And even though it's sunlight out, there's plenty of crepuscular areas in this city, or urban shadows, if you will, for the bats to fly through and not be uncomfortable. But pretty soon after you set off, you feel a deeper shadow kind of overtaking you. And what is it like to be bats? What is it like to be some bat?
Well, it's kind of, First Lord Francis, the feeling you have when you're at a very important social function and you almost have to be everywhere at once and everyone, is paying attention to you and there's so much to navigate, but you're doing it all so perfectly and coordinatedly. It's like that because you're many things all working together.
Yeah. So you look up from the eyes and hear from the echolocating ears of these many bats, and there seems to be a impossible shape descending on you, with too many wings, a kind of a black and ominous feathered cloud lands and basically like scatters the swarm that is you. It's more shocking than anything at first, but go ahead and mark faint harm, and then like as you gather your batty wits, you see that there's something impossible, hovering above the streets of London, black feathered wings and golden eyes staring out from the feathers, like a kind of extremely goth peacock.
I'm going to stay bats. I'm going to mob it as bats, and then I'm going to drink its blood.
So you're unleashing an attack as bats?
No, I want to roll Eternal Hunger to drink this creature's blood as bats.
Now, the vamp cannot feed on non-humans until it's taken that appropriate corruption move. So you can certainly try to drink this creature's blood, but the effects might be different from Eternal Hunger.
In that case, I'm probably unleashing an attack, but it's still, I am mobbing it and drinking its blood, just not with the effects it would have on a human.
Yeah, we'll see what effects you do experience, but please do go ahead and roll unleash an attack.
All right. Rolling plus blood, which is a lot better than spirit for me. Now I'm rolling +2. Yeah, good thing of that. That's a 6.
A six even with the +2.
That's a 6 counting the +2. Yes.
Oh boy. Yeah. Are the bats just like biting onto the wings here, trying to get purchase?
I mean, they're definitely trying to go for the eyes in some cases.
I think you do bite these eyes as bats, Lord Francis. And like for anyone who was passing down below would see the like very strange sight of a bunch of bats swarming this hard to make out thing, but like as the bats seem to latch on, they like each like glow golden and then are incinerated. So mark one more harm, and I'm gonna say the other consequence of this, because that was a real miss there, huh?
Oh, it was a 6.
Yeah. The other consequence of this is you need to mark a debility of your choice, and I think just to like give you the flavor of it, as like you're attacking as bats, you like feel the bats that are you biting down and being destroyed by that which they try to consume, and then the thing just like spreads its wings in one dramatic gesture, and like many of the bats just like fall to the ground into a pile that might just start coalescing back into your humanoid form, even against your will. But you feel a scar. Yeah, mark a scar of your choice from the list there.
Wow, so I'm grievously harmed and scarred.
A really big deal. Like, it's permanent.
Yeah, it's a permanent -to one of my stats. And it does, if I mark it normally, it would mean I'd ignore all harm in order when I get to mark it.
Then choose 2 harm or 1 scar.
Can you just remind me what happens when I have 2 grievous harm marked? Mechanically?
Is there
well,
only
mechanically,
one...
you should just mark down a description of what it is, and the GM, and just as a reminder for yourself and the GM as to like if it might cause problems.
I'm just trying to remember if being 2 grievous harm means I'm going to die shortly unless I receive like intense medical attention or not, or is that only for critical?
I think grievous harm is not great. I don't know if it means you're going to die shortly. I think Lord Francis would probably seek out some way to get help, though.
All right, then.
Yeah. If you suffer grievous harm, you need to get medical attention to keep things from getting worse, but you'll be back on your feet in a few days, according to the rule book.
All right, then how's this for his reaction to this?
Yeah.
As the bats kind of coalesce, he's lost weight and looks drawn and aged a little bit relative to how he looked before this maneuver. And initially, as he stands up, he is missing a hand. But, eventually one bat comes flapping back and nestles into his sleeve, a bat that I hope has possibly reached Bartholomew. And then, slots in and he flexes his hand uncomfortably.
Has reached Bartholomew, your butler?
Yes, I think we just have an understanding that if a single unhappy bat reaches him, I am in some sort of trouble.
God.
I require the recuperating
signal,
cape.
in other words.
Yes.
Gone ahead and named the butler Alfred. Yeah, you hear echoing in your head, little child of night, you dare to batten on me, foolhardy. Consider this a warning. Stay out of my affairs, for I am Marbus, and I am older and harder than you, Francis. And the winged creature seems to be flying away as Bartholomew moves speedily into the alley to kind of support you, right, as you're kind of reeling from this. What did you ended up choosing to go to Grievous harm?
That's right, 2 Grievous.
Great. I think that you can definitely find people who can heal you from that. It might cost you something, but we can either cut away, or you can give me a sense of where Francis might be headed next to deal with that.
I'll brainstorm a little because I didn't have getting this badly hurt in mind, and cut away for now.
All right, Catherine, you are engaged in a carriage chase through the streets of Jacobean London.
Plan all along.
What's the first obstacle that you navigate with aplomb as you're tailing this other carriage? Just to paint this chase a little for us, imagining who's leaping out of the way, what things that have been left in the street need to be maneuvered around, because it's not like these streets are many of the streets were not built for wheeled vehicles at all, right?
Yeah, I think probably the cart ducks down into an alleyway, and I kind of do a hairpin turn, sending up a spray of mud into various passersby, and follow it down the alleyway, the size of the carriage knocking against the walls.
Totally. Yeah. Let's say that the cart ahead of you is a little smaller than Lord Francis's fancy carriage that you've taken, and so there comes a point where it's it's leading this chase. You're keeping it in sight, but haven't gotten within like swords reach of it or anything like that. And there gets to a point where the streets are just full of are just full of timber. Like someone's in the midst of building a townhouse or reconstructing one. Honestly, it's probably a place where a monastery has been dissolved and someone is rebuilding it for secular purposes. There's piles and piles of timber in the road. It is made it too tight for many carriages. The carriage you're following like squeezes by up ahead. You are on its tail, but it does not necessarily look like you can get through, at least not totally safely. What do you do?
How far ahead of me is it?
Why do you ask?
I do have my magic, and let me double check.
2 hold from that channeling,
I have 2
I think.
hold. And I'm trying to remember like what kind of range my magic gives me when I use it as a weapon.
Yeah, I think you get to choose a close or an area
close.
attack with
Okay,
elementalism.
so I think close is like 3 feet-ish. Yeah, so I probably need to be a little closer.
To hit the carriage?
Yeah.
Or
actually, no, close is like a pistol length, right? Like it's good for not like like hand, but
yeah, close and far are 2 ranges of ranged weapon, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So is it close enough for that?
Certainly enough to try.
Okay, cool. I kind of as I sit in the seat of the carriage, I kind of let go of the reins with one hand, and my kind of eyes light up, and these kinds of tendrils of not so much light as places where the light's become sort of refracted and off kilter kind of extend from my hand, and I kind of wield it a little bit like, almost like, I guess now that I'm thinking I'm on the horse, almost like, one would a riding crop or a horse, well, not riding crop, but like a whip.
Okay.
And I kind of shoot my hand forward to kind of try to whip at the wheels of the cart.
Nice. So you're trying to keep them from getting away from you to sort of. Are you trying to hold up the wheels or break them?
Either works for me. I assume like I'm kind of using my weapon, so I assume probably break is the more likely.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and spend 1 hold and roll to unleash an attack.
Cool. Let's see here. There we go. I roll a 1.
That's all told, counting the modifier?
Yes.
That's great. All right. Give me a sec here. Yeah. Cool. I think you're kind of your magic catches on the wheel of the cart in front of you, right? And it seems to be simply slowing it down. And kind of like the like window in the back of the cart opens up, and your father's face appears there. and he yells back to you, "Let it go, Catherine dear. It's all right. I can handle myself. I've been among these intrigues before. It's rather exciting. Just let us go." What do you do?
So what's my positioning right now? Like you said, the magic is caught up in the wheels.
Yeah, remind me. You were sitting at like the coachman's seat for Lord Francis'
Yeah.
carriage? Great. And you've like whipped with this refracted light tendril magic over your horse to like catch the wheel of the carriage in front of you. It didn't break, but it was being slowed down. And now, you're being hailed, right, by the captive, who's asking you to let them go. Honestly, your father holds a debt over you, right?
Does he? I don't think so.
Okay, I mean, it seems plausible that at some point in your life he's done you a favor.
Not mechanically, however.
Okay, fair enough. Then your choice.
I mean,
is your own.
you're free to declare that he holds a debt over me. I'm fine with that.
Okay, good. Just if you're fine with it, I am going to declare it, because there's a whole move for refusing to honor a debt. And I think like what John says to you, Catherine, is like, Catherine, I don't want you to end up mixed up in all this. Look, if you love me, dear daughter, just let it go. Don't come after me, or at least release the carriage right now. You hear me? Right now. What do you do?
I'm torn between what I want to do in character and out of character, wanting to be dragged along the ground. No, I guess Catherine, yes, will kind of sadly like allow the magic to release the carriage, and kind of shout back that I don't know what it is you've become involved in, Father, but I will not allow them to hold you. I am coming for you, of that you can be assured.
Yeah. The you released the magic that was holding onto the other carriage. Your father kind of like nods ruefully, like, yeah, I know you, right? And then like he's like pushed aside, and you catch like the grinning face of Cuthbert Lacey before the window slams shut, and the carriage rattles along its way past the point where you can't fit through.
I mean, can I put a face to a name? Because this is the first time I've seen this guy in character.
Please do. Yes, I gave you his face.
Sure. Let us see here.
Roll with mortality.
Oh, I rolled better. I rolled a 4.
Even with your mortality there?
Yes.
Oh, man.
This is not a lucky night for any of the players, it seems.
Man. On a miss, you don't know them, or you owe them. The MC will tell you which. Oh boy. Yeah. You are upset to see this face here, because you owe Cuthbert Lacey. He was the one who brought you the information, that Elizabeth Hastings had, used demonology to assassinate an agent of King James. Right? He does the dirty work of that sort of person, and something about that job hadn't sat right with him. So you have that debt to him from of old, and you may not be thinking of it now, but he probably remembers it. Yeah, but as the window slams shut, that carriage rattles away. You are kind of there in the midst of the London street, and it probably starts to rain at that point. Honestly, it's a little like peal of thunder from overhead, even.
I suppose, knowing Sir Francis, I open up his carriage and pull out his spare umbrella.
Excellent. I think
And I take the carriage back to my home. Well, actually, no. Probably I'm going to take the carriage to see a certain shared acquaintance of myself and my father about his contacts in the underworld.
Who's that going to be? Is it Yeften?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute bio break here, and when we pick up again, we'll figure out where all these characters go next. So take 5. See folks back at 9:15 or so.
Okay.
Are we all back? Looks like not yet. I'll wait a moment. Good. So, as we return, I think that I want to say that Barnaby has arranged a time for Ariel and Yefton to be able to go into the tower, talk to Pentecost, but that's going to be later at night. So I think there's going to be a time gap before that part of the plan goes into effect, such that Yefton, where are you when your contact in the world of magic, Catherine D, whose father you knew during his court days, comes to you seeking help?
I think I'm at home.
All right. What does that look like?
So I think I may actually be in my workshop, which is in the basement of my townhouse. Sort of, I think, cleaning some tools, going over some, perhaps sharpening my cutlass. Not sure what tonight will bring.
What do we see here that lets us know this is more than a mundane workshop?
So I think I'm trying to remember which things I took, but I think the maybe what happens is the camera when it opens, like the opening shot is on my mystical focus, which is it's stained. It's actually a sort of like a small standalone set of stained glass panels set in lead. And I think that sort of stand on a kind of frame, a standing frame, between like a high up, it's like a shaft that goes up to the roof that at a certain hour of the day the sunlight or moonlight can shine through.
Wow. Nice.
And comes down directly on the forge. And so I think perhaps it is that time of day for this time of year.
So we've got the light streaming through the stained glass, casting the pattern of it onto your forge.
Yeah, like both the actual forge as well as the anvil. It's
what type of is it? Is it more abstract, or is there a
so I think what's odd about it is that you can't quite get a fix on it. You don't notice right away. Like when you just glance at it, it seems like a series of geometric patterns. But like if you stare at it for a while, you notice that the individual panels of the colors don't change. They shift around. So you might see first a floral pattern, and then like if you stare long enough, the petals stretch out, right, and become sort of like intertwining like wavy line. It's but very, very slowly, so that you might not notice.
That's super cool to picture. Do you have some old trusted servant here who would like let you know when someone comes calling, or do you
Yeah.
live entirely alone?
I live I live entirely alone. But there's a sort of like a bell system set up
So that
so that
someone
I could like a pulley, and I could hear like if
someone
someone
ring from the front.
is there, right? Like there's a yeah.
Hmm. Is there a particular ring you've taught to people that you consider trusted contacts?
Mm, sure, I like that idea.
Does Kath have you? Does Catherine
Catherine
know
does
it?
not know it. Catherine is just ringing, but
All
you
right,
know.
Catherine, you're just normally ringing at the front of Yeftin's abode. Does that sound right?
Well, actually, I take that back. Catherine, did your father ever tell you, um, like the sort of like the ring to get my attention if I'm otherwise occupied in the building?
I mean, probably. I mean, we've also done business in the past.
Right. I'm saying I have explicitly not trusted you with that, but I did your
Okay.
father. So the question is, did your father tell you?
You.
Sure, yes. I
Wonderful.
haven't used it until now, however.
Right. Awesome.
I like this a lot. Yeah, so you do the pattern of rings that your father taught you, and Yefton, down below in your workshop, you hear that ringing out.
So yeah, so I take one last look at the cutlass, wipe it with oil, and put it in its scabbard. No, I just hold it as I walk up to the door.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm, I and look through the and open it.
Yeah, Catherine, are you looking at all bedraggled from the rain, or has Lord Francis's umbrella served you in good stead?
I'm a bit bedraggled.
All right, so this somewhat bedraggled woman is on your doorstep, Yeften. You would recognize her as uh, Dee's daughter, as someone you've had some contact with, but not as someone whom you gave that ring to.
Mm-hmm. Ms. D. I mean, I think I can put together where she got it from, without too much trouble. I assume your father sent you?
That is the thing. He has not sent me, but he taught me that ring in case there was ever an emergency where he became unavailable.
I see. Well, coming out of the rain, and
Thank you.
I bring her into the parlor.
Is there kind of a fairly sparse bachelor aesthetic to the place, or
It's like it has almost like a naval kind of sparseness to it. Like there is nothing unnecessary. It's clear I'm not used to not used to hosting
Mhm.
people, but there's like enough very, very sort of like stark furniture. Like if you didn't know who I was, you might think I was a Puritan.
That's good. Yeah, Catherine, you look around, take this in. What do you say? Do you explain the situation to Yeftan?
Sir Yefton, I have come to you for help. Father has been kidnapped, and I know that you are an expert in cruel men. So I require your help in tracking down the particular one that has taken him. As I say, forgetting his name.
Cuthbert Lacey.
Can I put a face to that name?
Yeah, we're gonna find out how everybody knows this dude.
Yeah.
That's generally how it happens in Urban Shadows.
Unless you can you apply old friends here? Is that would you prefer
I
to
maybe
do
could,
that?
but I don't want to here.
All right.
I actively want to
Put a
apply
face
put
to
a
a
face
name.
to a name. Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, I don't know if I could because it's when you first encounter. But certainly, I can put a face to a name.
Yeah, when you just hear the name, and you'll get to mark mortality for it.
Yes, yes. And my mortality is 1. I think that's still a fail. Yes, that's a 4.
Oh, boy.
Man, the dice tonight.
Unless you don't know them or you owe them. Owing them has been more interesting, but I don't know. I guess it doesn't make sense if you didn't know him though, right? Like you were a spy master, you knew everyone. So yeah, so you owe him for some dirty work that you needed done.
Look, I mean, I can owe him for the same thing that Catherine owes him for, right? Like that's the right. We were both involved in that.
Right. Yeah, you owe him because it was his tip off that helped something needed to be done to cover up the demonology that Elizabeth Hastings was getting into.
Yeah.
I
So many
buy it. He's got a debt on you too.
I don't know where I'm going to put that debt. I am out of rows.
I'll mess around in the character keeper and
I'll just stick it here now. What's his name? Cuthbert
Lacey.
Love that. It's a great name.
Thank you.
The guy crying. I have 1 debt total on people, and it is you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Cuthbert Lacey for tipping off. Okay. I see. Well, I'd like to help you, but I'm retired. I no longer get involved in these kinds of affairs. You're muted, Stephen.
Sir Yefton, you were not retired when your little pet sorcerer decided to murder a man.
Are you calling in a debt?
Yes.
Yes, I suppose I am retired, but I've left another mess that I suppose needs to be cleaned up, and I do owe you for the help that you gave me. All right, very well. So what's the story? What has Lacey done to your father?
Is that drink in character, Yefton?
I don't think I haven't. Let's say I've offered you some juice, some small amount of fruit juice. Anyways, so yeah,
Yeah, he and some men working for him have came to my house and absconded with my father earlier today. I gave chase, but my father at the time seemed not to want me to pursue him on my own. So I've decided to come to you, as you are perhaps someone that my father at some point trusted. And that I knew I could perhaps cajole into helping me.
Do you know where Lacey took him? No, you just said you didn't pursue.
Yes, that is why I've come to you. You are, after all, one of the city's foremost experts on where such men could be found. I would think this would be as important to you as it was to me. After all, the secrets that he might be after my father for might be yours.
Your father, so far as I know, can be trusted with those secrets. I'm not concerned about that. My larger concern is what mischief Lacey is might wreak in the city with your father, and also frankly, my debt to you, which is important. Okay, so I'm just trying to think about the tools available here. Let's make a plan.
Yeah, I was about
Let
to
us
flag
let us
that move for you.
let us make a plan. We of course don't have to know what that plan is right now, but I'm gonna roll for that. Roll with mind.
And can I ask for just, you know, I don't want the details of the plan because the move aligning them is sort of the point. But
Mhm.
can I ask for the objective of the plan? Is it
Yes. The point of the point of the plan is to discover uh, the location of John D. I'm gonna Catherine, you can tell me if you're okay with that. But the way I'm understanding the scope of the favor that you've asked me is to sort of find out where Cuthbert Lacey has taken your father, and not necessarily to free him.
Yeah, and actually, I realized I might want to modify that a little bit just because I realized I forgot that I actually do have tracking, as well as like presumably several of my father's possessions.
Fair enough. So just because I feel like, breaking into whatever prison he's in and releasing him might be is somewhat more than a moderate favor. Like there's a
I
larger
mean, you can
cost
always
there.
turn it down.
Yeah. I guess we don't know what the cost there really is yet there either. Anyways, I'm along for the ride, and that's fine. So if you you want the favor to be releasing him? Is that the story?
Yes, yeah.
All right, that's fine. I'll take it. I will do that. Okay, this
Yeah.
is the thing I always with this game. When that debt is resolved after your father is freed, right? Not when we make the agreement. Or is it so long as I'm making a good effort? Like, when does that debt get resolved mechanically?
I think now, because it's not like she can cash it in again, right?
Right. Okay. Wonderful. I have marked all 4 of my factions.
Hey,
And then so the objective of the plan is to free John D. But
free
do we
the
want?
D.
But do you want to, Catherine? Do you want to find out where he is? Either way, I'm gonna roll it, and we can figure out the.
Lay the plans first, because you could spend the hold to help her if she runs into any problem casting the tracking spell.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, can I just spend my last hold from channeling now, or should I reroll for channeling?
Oh, right. Because you can.
Channeling is just, I mean, tracking is just you spend 1 hold, and if you have a personal object or a bit of their hair or blood or something like that.
Oh, in that case, it might make sense spend your hold, cast tracking, and then we lay a plan.
Sure.
I already rolled, so I'm holding 2 hold right now.
Yeah, my father was looking at some of those old at some of his, like, was it armillary spheres or something else?
Yeah, it was. He had astrolobes and such.
Okay. Yeah, I think I probably actually, just because it seems kind of interesting, like one of those armillary spheres. Are you familiar with them?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Well, they're kind of like a kind of, for the audience at home. they're kind of astronomical tool for telling like this things like the state of the moon and things like that at a given date, at a given like historical date. And they look a lot like an astrolabe in that they have a lot of rings within rings within rings. And I kind of pull out this, which I've brought with me, and I again cast tracking, holding the angel feather over the object as a focus. And yeah, what do we find out?
Are you still in the parlor, or have you gone down to the workshop?
Oh no, still in the parlor. I'm
Workshop
keeping that. Yeah.
Fair enough. For several reasons, I think I want this to appear where both of you can see it. So it may be that an image just kind of appears on the table here in this room. Kind of the surface of it sort of shimmers and changes and becomes a window, and you can see kind of a bird's eye view of London, and then the view tightens. The city's buildings kind of shoot up towards you, and you see, yeah, you see it focusing in on a on the Hastings Manor, and focusing in through the ceiling to a kind of well-appointed room where John Dee is kind of sitting on a bed. There's a lot of kind of parchment on the floor in front of him. It looks like he's been given writing materials, ink and paper, and there's the sound of heavy boots going back and forth outside his door. Clearly, he's under guard here. Does that feel satisfying for the tracking roll or tracking spell?
So I know like the general location where he's at from that, right? Or not?
Yeah. You can you've got the manor that he's in. It's the Hastings Manor, and you can tell kind of where in the house he is too. It seems like they've basically put him in a top floor room, converted into a well-appointed cell.
Cool. Yeah, that works for me.
Does he seem to be in immediate danger?
Not from what you've seen there.
Okay. How much time has passed?
That's how long has it been?
Since he was taken?
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong question. How much time has passed since Catherine got here? I'm just trying to figure out, like, do we go immediately, or do I have to make my appointment at the tower first?
Interesting. Only a few minutes have passed since Catherine got here. I will say though that right around now you hear another ring, and does Ariel Oakley know the ring of trusted people?
Ariel definitely knows that ring.
All right, Ariel, this will be where you enter the scene. I do want to flash back to just something that you would have learned before you arrived here, though. I believe, at least. Is that all right?
Sure.
So where did you go after arranging things with Barnaby?
Probably just went home and waited a little while before coming over to Yefton's place.
Excellent. How does your queen Titania usually get in contact with you with new orders?
I think I've got a little garden on my balcony that, like, symbol of flower symbolism. She sends me messages by making different things bloom and patterns.
Excellent. So there's a supernaturally large rose blooming in the middle of your garden out there when you get back to your place.
Do I know what this means, or?
I think you know that if you breathe deeply from this rose, you will hear her voice and understand her message.
All right, I bend down and just take a good deep breath.
Yeah. You hear Titania's voice. more beautiful than the tongues of any mortals in this city. She says, "Ariel, my sweet, it has been too long."
Yes, my queen. I weep every moment that my duty keeps me away from your court.
And things must be so much less fun there with that dear Queen Bess gone to her reward.
The world is forever lessened without her.
And yet, we still have need of tribute from mortals. And I would be loath to see Oberon, the King of Shadows, and you hear her like spit in the in the like voice in your head that's wafting through the smell of the rose. I would be loath to see the Autumn Court insert itself into fair England. We must reestablish our exclusive claim. And so, Ariel, you know what I need you to do.
I'm afraid I must not. I cannot possibly understand what you are asking me to do.
You must get as close to this new King John, or whatever they call him, as is possible.
With respect, my most noble liege, you cannot simply replace Elizabeth with this poor facsimile of a monarch, this disgrace to the throne.
It appears the lords of flesh and blood already have, and we fairer folk must simply make do. Yes, yes. Bind us tightly in an alliance with this new English Scotsman. And I hear that your excursions upon the stage may hold you in good stead with that, if half the rumors about him are true.
I will see what I can do, my queen.
Bear in mind, Ariel, that your power flows through me. I trust I am as clear as the crystal moon shimmering above the flawless seas.
Perfectly, oh liege.
Oh, good. And do talk to me soon. I so enjoy our little chats. Great. So you're going along with the debt she's calling in there?
Yes.
Excellent. So accepting your task of getting close to King James and cementing the alliance with the Spring Court.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Then I think that's the main thing of note that happened to you before you went out to seek Yeften. And I'm about to see a little of that scene before we check in and see how Francis is holding up. So what brought you to Yeften's door at this point, Ariel?
I think I'm just meeting up with him to prepare for us helping for the prison break.
Good. Oh, I think you can mark wild for honoring a debt. Again, okay. Under the theory that when the debt's called in and you've agreed to it, it's like its binding force it exists, right? And you can do the relevant faction move.
Okay, I marked that.
Nice. So you hear the ring, Yeften. Do you open the door once more?
I do, yes. Just so you know, I took for my advance, I took the hunter move this way. When you lead people out of danger, roll with blood. On a 10+, you all get away safely. On a 7-9, you get hurt or one of them gets hurt. You choose. On a miss, everyone's safe but you. You're left behind and the way out is closed to you.
Very good. You can go ahead and clear the faction markings.
Oh, did I not? I thought I did. Okay. Anyways, yeah. I let Ariel in.
Hello, Yeften, and I see you have a little mage in your as a guest as well.
Be polite to my guests, Ariel.
I will show her all the respect she has earned.
Show her the respect I have earned. You're in my home.
Sip at my juice coolly.
Catherine, just a cool customer here.
And what brings you to my dear friend Yeftin's door? Oh, Mage D the Lesser.
I'm sure it is much the same vein of business that is calling you here now.
Ariel, you take
Something that
for an
makes
answer?
use of our friend's special talents.
Ariel, just checking. Are you going to take that for an answer, or are you going to roll to figure someone out? Because you're allowed to use that to ask a fellow player a question.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll roll for it.
And tell us what it looks like when Ariel, gives Catherine the once over to see if you can, see through and glean more than she's being forthcoming about.
So
Remember, you can also actually spend a debt to just force someone to give you an honest answer to any question as well.
Good point.
I don't think I'm quite there yet.
I think that's just a... Okay.
Right, so I'm just sort of like giving you some like an intense look, like just thorough once over, and yeah.
Intense look from the Fae. Maybe your eyes even have like a shine that's a little more than human as you do it.
That sounds good. I got a 10, so I
Nice.
can hold 2.
And kind of spend them during the conversation to ask those questions to the player. And it can be the sort of thing where you're having a different conversation in character, and you spend the hold to find out like what your character learns from observation, even if the person you're figuring out doesn't just lay their cards on the table. Or it can be you spend the hold and they decide it's that their character says it out loud and you hear it. Keep that hold in mind. Tell us what Ariel says to Catherine, and spend the hold when you want to get answers to those questions.
Will do.
Catherine, this you do you know Ariel is a Fae? Sorry, I imagine this came up in like debts at the first, but I don't recall the answer.
I think she knows.
Yeah, you broke up. You all broke up for me for a second, but yes, I think we basically established that I'm basically aware of. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
All right, very good. Yeah. Just you've got a Fae, staring you down a little. What do you do? Do you respond in any way, or kind of are you stone faced here?
So was that question directed at me or at Ariel?
Catherine, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Because Ariel's the one like trying to get answers.
Yeah. So how is that little queen of yours doing?
The peerless Queen Titania is excelling in all things.
Of course. Not. Of course, from what I remember, there are rifts. Those who oppose her, if I recall. I'm just kind of acting like I'm thinking this out loud.
Are you hoping to just get under her skin here?
Yeah, basically.
I'm gonna interject in this moment
Yeah.
and say, you're both guests in my home who I presume have come here. One of whom I know has come here, asking for my help on her own business. And I ask that you treat each other with the courtesy you would, well, me, frankly.
You're right. Let it be never said that I am less courteous than a fae. I kind of hold out my hand to you and say, "My apologies," and I give you a smile.
Ariel, what do you do?
I stare at you and I don't shake, I don't make any reaction, just sort of stare for a while.
Are you spending any of your figure someone out? Hold.
No, not. Yeah, I guess I'll spend one to ask what your character's hoping to get from Yefton, and I think I'll just know what's been established on the video already.
Got it. That like through close observation, mundane or
Through that
supernatural.
magic map sitting out on the table.
I mean, I think like to any other observer, the map has faded by
Yeah.
now, but maybe it's that Ariel with kind of face sight can like look and see like see the impression of it there and put the pieces together. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sure, yeah.
Great. Good spend of hold. Yeah, Yeften, your guests are problems. What do you do?
I don't, because we haven't like established this firmly yet. So Alexi, like, what is the timeline in terms of when we have to meet?
Barnaby.
Or we're gonna Barnaby or Pentecost.
Oh, sorry. Just the timeline of like Pentecost's own situation.
Oh no, yeah, presumably we don't know that yet. But I just meant like we have this right. Barnaby was going to have his friend let us in to meet Pentecost.
Yeah,
in the tower at some point later on.
I think
like,
I think it's like, you know, the dramatist in me wants to say at midnight, right? So
right, and what time is it? Like, what time is it now?
Afternoon, evening. So there's like time either to do things before that or to cut forward to it, basically.
Sorry, you broke up there a second ago.
Oh, sorry. I think that it's afternoon or evening at the moment, and the like upshot is there is time to do something else beforehand or to cut forward to the tower visit, whichever is more enjoyable.
But meaning that there's not time to go to the Hastings residence first.
There could be, if that's
but there's then a risk of not making it to the tower, presumably. If we get like, that's a possible consequence.
It's a possible consequence, yeah.
So I think I say to Catherine, your father seems in fine health, and Lady Oakley and I have important business this night. Meet me here on the morrow, and we'll see what we can do to free him.
It would be a shame for the greatest wizard in England to languish in confinement.
I mean, the other option
on the shoulder. Have no fear, I'm right here.
Ariel, if you feel that so strongly, you can perhaps meet Mistress Jones yourself, and Lady D and I, Mistress D and I can conduct her business immediately.
I'm afraid I must see to Pentecost first.
Sorry, just to clarify, I was suggesting that you go to Pentecost yourself, and I go with Catherine.
Yes, very well then. I can handle your mess for you, Yefton.
It's our mess, I believe.
I feel like I'm figuring someone out at this point.
If you do it, you do it. So roll it.
Hey, a 7.
Which one of us are you figuring out?
Uh, hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out uh what's her face?
Ariel.
Ariel, yes.
And on a 7, Ariel also holds 1. So you're now currently each holding 2 to ask questions of the other.
No, I think Ariel got a 10. Okay, you're right.
But when you rolled a
Yeah.
7, the
Right.
other person also
She already
holds 1
spent
on
1.
you. Yeah. And you're not in the same faction. You don't get the bonus question for that.
Let me just go over to that move there. Yeah, I guess I'm actually also going to try to figure out what exactly it is you want from from Kefton.
Then yeah, sure. And just out of character, what is that, Ariel? And then we'll say how Catherine has discovered it.
Okay, so Pentecost helped both Yefton and I was looking for his help in freeing her.
Yep.
But I'm prepared to do that on my own.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll say, you've like, not been like extremely secret about this in your conversation so far. It could be that even if you didn't lay this out exactly like that, Catherine's just able to put the pieces together. Now you know what the other one wants. And I'm also willing to cut away from the scene and kind of leave you with that hold to spend slightly retroactively, just slightly in the interest of time, but so that you
Okay.
later say you've spent the hold to have those answers to have answers on each other. If you think of other things you definitely want to learn from them, and unless you're ready right away with more questions.
I mean, I do want to find out how I could put your character in my debt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead and ask that. Tell us what Catherine does to figure that out.
I think I'm continuing to prod at you a little bit with our little bouts of verbal insults.
Yeah. These two.
I think what you realize is you could put me in your character's debt by I need money, basically. And I think you realize that because the Ariel's clothes aren't quite in the latest fashion, and they're a little bit more frayed than she ever wore before. Like from what you know of me, you know that if I'm willing to cut these corners with my clothing, then I'm.
I've also been there. I can see the signs.
Everybody needs money. That's great. And yeah, Kyle, you see Jesse in the chat talking to you about the kind of option he's offering. But I think I'll cut away, and we will we will cut back and kind of see which directions these characters have gone off in, if that sounds all right to folks. Cool. Then Lord Francis, to whom do you turn for help in your present problems?
Well, usually my man could solve minor lacerations and so forth, but this does seem strange, and it is possible the rougher, uncivilized experience of a man who customarily aggravates all beings that he encounters could be helpful. So I think I'm going to Theophilus Vardine.
And just to, I'm not muted, right? Just to check, you were injured in this fracas while you were bats. How are those injuries manifesting in your human form? Because you got that your hand back when the bat crawled up your sleeve. Yes.
I mean, I think he looks like someone who's like just gotten off his bed from the sweating sickness, basically.
Youch. That
Drawn, lost weight, doesn't quite fit in the clothes he was wearing.
Yeah, I mean, what's the Bartholomew is the name of the butler?
Mhm.
Yeah, Bartholomew might even look you over and say, "My lord, I know it's hardly my place to say so, but it seems you may need an expert in your condition, and we happen to know one in London, loath as I am to suggest consulting him."
Ugh, says Lord Francis expansively. Do we not have any contacts in the city who have anyone who needs to be resolved? I don't need to go out to the country. I'm sure it would strengthen me just to solve other people's problems in my own particular way.
You may be right at that, my lord, but feudal duty compels me to bring you to the place I'm most confident can offer insight into your unusual circumstances.
Very well, Bartholomew, but have a message sent to the manor to have the fainting couch brought into the city for my use.
Right away, my lord. So you what your carriage had been commandeered. Do you proceed on foot to Theophilus Vardine's or find some other way to avoid walking?
I have Bartholomew. Are there hansom cabs at this point? A little early for them, yes?
I associate that more with Sherlock Holmes, to be honest.
That is fair.
I'm sure he could find like a wheelbarrow or something.
Yes, I think I'm more committed to not walking anywhere than I am to that. So I have him pile it with robes and then throw a cloak over me entirely, and then trundle the wheelbarrow to where we are going.
So that no one will spot you in this undignified form.
I'd also note that I have a sword in part of my gear. Is it all right for that to be a sword cane that I can lean on now that I'm injured?
Sure.
Perfect.
All vampires can have sword canes. Yeah, okay, cool. So Bartholomew, trusty butler that he is, brings you to Theophilus Vardine's place of business. He has a sort of an office set up really like in a larger warehouse by the docks, so that you're kind of you blend in a little bit with some of the other kind of miscellaneous cargoes being brought in and out of the warehouse area.
I think I would definitely prefer that Bartholomew like inform the other small people who talk to each other that I'm here to see Theophilus, and then regardless of where he is in the building, push my wheelbarrow in and I will languidly emerge from it as though this was a deliberate plan. As though I've just had a restful nap and reluctantly awake to see Theophilus.
Please go ahead and roll with night. Because I think this is a hitting the streets, as it were.
Okay. Luckily, I haven't rolled with that yet, so I get to mark it. And night is rolling at +1 for me. I'm going to delete my current dice and get better dice, though.
Yeah, those dice were no good.
All right. Oh, wow. Those were the wrong dice. 1 second. Excellent. I rolled d8s. There we go. And that would be a 9.
Go ahead and mark the faction.
Yep.
Oh, and I think I sadly made made a choice for someone before on this, and really it should be you, the player, choosing. So I apologize for that. So yeah, the person's available. He has the stuff you need, but you're going to choose one. Who Theophilus is juggling his own problems, or what you need from him is more costly than anticipated?
I pick more costly than anticipated.
Great.
Oh, and I certainly greet him as Theophilus by his Christian name, since he substantially ranks below me.
He looks up from his desk. He's been
Theophilus.
He like closes one of the large account books in front of him. There's sort of like an audible whoomph as it closes, and you see like kind of dust fly up, and kind of other papers on the desk kind of shift from the thud there as he looks up at you. He's got kind of long dark hair with streaks of white, relatively full, black beard, and a, like the furred mantle that, a very, someone well-to-do and on the make in the merchant class would adopt. And he looks at you and he says with sort of mock reverence, "Lord Fenton, to what does my humble shipyard owe the honor of the Earl of Northampton's presence?"
Well, good fellow, I ran into a spot of bother, and I know that you like business activity, doing things, and you might enjoy a novel problem, or lecturing me about how it is not novel and vampires have for a long time, etc., etc., etc. I think it's clear to him by now that I'm like much gaunter than the last time he saw me.
Can I offer you a chair, or are you comfortable lying in that wheelbarrow?
I think I kind of like emerged from the wheelbarrow with the cane when I greeted him. So I'm leaning heavily on the cane, but I emerge as though I'd been transported in bed, basically. Though certainly he plausibly could offer me a chair. I think Lord Fenton like looks around and goes like, "Perhaps only if you also trade rugs or something with which to pat them."
You're looking a little less spry, I'm sorry to say, my lord. I haven't seen you this wan since you were your late father.
I think Lord Fenton like does appreciate that, because it's a coup he could share with relatively few people, and so he genuinely warms up a little and says, "Well, to be frank, I ate something that disagreed with me. Oh, it was all
something or someone, Francis?"
Is a flying creature with eyes in its black wings a person? No one complains when we have pheasant at the manor.
His eyes light up at that. He's like, "And did you immediately observed these unwelcome effects from your meal?"
Unfortunately, yes. I meant merely to sample lightly, but as you can see, several of my component parts were.
He kind of nods, rings a little bell he has on his desk. One of his kind of overseers sticks their head in through the door, and he says, "We have an honored guest here, Burley. Why don't you go ahead and bring out some of the special vintage?" And like Burley seems to understand, steps away from the door. Theophilus walks back around his desk. He says, "Well, my lord, if you're considering expanding your palate, then perhaps we can help each other, as it were.
Oh boy.
And Burley walks back in, and he's pushing a figure that's kind of bound and has a sack pulled down over his head, and then like the chair that you didn't take, Burley like pushes this person into and like ties them to it. You can hear them kind of moaning, but in a like subdued fashion, like they've already been drugged or something. And then Burley kind of like roughly pushes the person's head a little, so they're like still kind of masked by the sack, but their neck has been exposed. And Theophilus is kind of like leaning forward over his desk as he says, "Go ahead and have a bite. You're looking peckish, and I'm sure a fuller stomach would do wonders for you."
I think Francis, kind of languidly moves towards the figure and goes, "Theophilus, we've discussed this before, but you have no sense of art. It is the preparation of the meal that stimulates the appetite." And he goes to pull off the hood to see who it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't assume you know the person under the hood, but it is someone with something distinctive, because he has a like eye symbol like carved into his forehead, and his own eyes are kind of a little like rolled back in his head, and you hear his like moaning slightly more. You hear his moaning slightly more at the moment, and he seems to be just like endlessly recounting dreams of fire and death.
But he's human?
He's human.
Well then, I feel like there's an easy way both to clarify what's going on, possibly, and deal with some of my problems. So I'm going to roll Eternal Hunger. And I think that Lord Francis like looks around expectantly, and when no one produces anything, like dramatically produces a handkerchief from his pocket, tucks it in, and slides out his fangs and goes for it. So rolling with blood.
Yeah.
Using the good dice. Now that's a 12.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you successfully.
See, I just needed to drink more blood this whole time.
It's very healthy for you. All right. So you successfully feed here, and I think you choose 3 from this list.
Darn right. I heal 1 harm, learn a secret about them, and they don't die.
Yeah.
After all, this is not my human. Be very rude.
Indeed. You. So like it's invigorating, right? I mean, like,
is this an unwilling victim, presumably, because he's all tied up?
And drugged? Yes.
I also mark corruption.
Great. What is usually the best part of feeding on human blood hot from the source?
I think it's the way that as you do it, the heart rate speeds up. And there's something like very like personal and memorable about each person in that way.
This is a memorable feeding, all right. You get the like surge of strength and vitality from this blood. You also get just an unmistakable ashen taste in your mouth. Like somehow this man's blood has been infused with ash. And the like, I think like you blink a couple times and you're seeing like kind of visions dancing in front of your eyes, visions of armies massed for battle, visions of cities in flame, just visions of disaster, and visions of kind of the dark and terrible triumph of the armies of the night. And so the secret you learn is that this man is an oracle, and that tasting his blood, at least however he's been prepared by Theophilus, has given you a taste of his power as well. Does that feel like a secret about him for you?
Yeah. And I think just for what the healing looks like as this happens, that Francis, being both vain and strategic, like kind of regains his own look primarily in his face. But his clothes hang slightly strangely on him, and anyone who took him by the arm would both be startled by the discrepancy, and not just as they would have been before, that he seems unhealthy, but more startled that he now has the face of a healthy man and not the body of one.
So you've got the natural ruby of your cheeks, or the unnatural ruby of your cheeks, as the case may be, but your body is still bearing the effects of your little problem while you were a bat. Yeah. So I think Theophilus is leaning way forward, watching you hungrily, and it seems to be taking in the effects you're experiencing.
I mean, my instinct is to roll to figure someone out on Theophilus at this point.
My question is then, are you figuring him out by indulging his vices?
Certainly. So, I'm curious if he has a different particular vice I would know about besides
vampirism.
But I do think the first thing I say is fascinating. You must speak to my chef.
Yeah, he clearly watches you for a moment. He may even just reach out and grip you by the shoulder a sec, and then draw you in close to stare into your eyes, and then he's like, "Well, Lord Francis, I know your ancestors would have employed poison testers. What a new experience for you to get to be one." And then he'll definitely feed on this guy too, and you can roll to figure him out at that time. Absolutely.
And I think just to kind of flavor that I'm indulging his vices when I've rolled this, I think that the whole time he's feeding, and probably in a way that's more irritating than helpful, Lord Francis is pompously lecturing him like the way that wine people do on how to best appreciate the subtle ashy tang, telling him to pull back, swirl the blood in his mouth. And definitely appears to be trying to help. Just annoying, but in fact is trying to tick him off. All right, so I'm figuring someone out, rolling with blood instead of mind. That's a 10. See, these are the good dice now. I suggest everyone else delete their dice.
Yeah, nice roll there. I think that means you get 2 questions from the figure someone out list.
Yeah. And I think definitely the first question I'm trying to get to is, what is your character hoping to get from this weirdo dude you're eating, right? And so, I think Lord Francis is, going to approach it pompously and, fatuously, right? Without giving away his depth of interest, going, you mentioned a poison. Is it something you introduce slowly so as to build it up without spoiling the meat? Or is it something where I need to eat the person very quickly after the delightful adjudicant has been introduced? How did you develop this? Are there other flavors you have in reserve?
He steps back, wipes his bloody mouth on his sleeve, and pulls from his jacket what's clearly a bottle of ash. And he says, "Ulrich Alma, brilliant painter. Never got to see it, but you can taste it in the ashes."
Man, oh man, that's so insane.
So I think you might gather that Theophilus thinks there's some power in this painting itself, the discourse on the final battle at the end of days, and he's hoping to get it by filling oracles with ash and then drinking their blood.
Yeah, that's a strong choice. You know, and I think I'm next interested. I get 3 questions because he's in my faction. But I think the next question I'm interested in is, what does your character worry might happen? And again, kind of probing by fascinating, and yet so sad to lose a work of art, to consume it just once. You remind me of some of the circles I move in. Have you ever heard of an ortolan? Theophilists. The whole beauty of the eating is the destructiveness and the wastefulness of it. And I thought you, in your penny pinching ways, wouldn't appreciate this kind of gesture.
That's the bird you nobles eat with a cloth over your head to hide your shame from God.
Yes, but when I eat people, of course, I keep the cloth here to prevent stains.
I am not afraid of any god, Francis. With this power, I will be able to lead the forces of night. I will take my rightful place. And thanks to you, I know I will not be burned from within by hellfire for it. And he claps you on the shoulder jovially.
All right. And I'd love to use my last one on that. How could I get your character to? Because I think what Francis goes, kind of chuckling, but with a little edge of seriousness to his voice, which is probably the first strong seriousness Theophilus has heard from him in this scene, says, if it's hellfire you're concerned about, I can't claim to be a very good Catholic, Theophilus, but I think you'd be a little unwise to assume that what does not harm me does not harm you, or that you hold the same protections I do. And I'm really wondering, how could I get your character to be frightened of the powers of my church?
Theophilus is a man of numbers and reckoning. So I think he's through his long vampiric life, just kept his head down in the religious conflicts of England without thinking of them as having that much to do with him. I think he would be able to put the fear of God and the Catholic God in particular into him if you demonstrated before his face that as a vampire he should be wary of the sacraments or sacramentals of your church.
Very good. I think I'm probably ready to make my exit from this scene. So, Lord Francis's parting words are: do write up a bill of sale for another one of those delightful creatures if you come across one. I'm sure I could find it within my budget to keep in the cellar for a special occasion. And does not, wait for a reply because he wants to communicate just that he has no sense of the import of these people to him and would quite enjoy eating one again.
Yeah.
The second part is true.
Yeah. Theophilus' nostrils flare, but he otherwise just kind of watches you go, Lord Francis. And I think we'll check in with the other player characters and find out where they have gone, because I think it was slightly up in the air whether Yefton was headed to the Hastings or the Tower or attempting to do both. Is that right?
Yeah, I sort of I just wanted to be clear to Ariel that when I said, can you do it without me, it's not because it was a sincere question. It was do you need me to come? Is that important? Or can I take care of this other errand because I trust you that you can handle this well? Right? That's what that was.
Yeah, I think I can take care of Pentecost alone.
All right then. Ariel, we should hurry to the Hastings abode to see if we can snatch your father from whatever danger he may be in.
So Catherine, rather.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Catherine.
Great. Let's check on that first.
Should I be marking a corruption for that?
Yes, you
Yeah.
should. You know this is dangerous, but you have a plan, and what the
Yes.
plan is will be slowly revealed as problems arise. Yeah. So just tell me what's your approach? Are you headed to the front door of the Hastings, or are you attempting to enter the house without being noticed at all?
I want to see something. Very quickly.
Well, while he's thinking, can I just say that I probably am channeling magic before we start making the approach?
Yeah, you can even narrate what it looks like to be kind of like a little more on the fly, like the magic lock and load montage, right? Of like how does Catherine channel and get her magics at her fingertips when they're kind of en route to an extraction location.
I think I probably take out some chalk and prep some sigils around me, and take out the angel feather, and begin the same kind of slow chant that we kind of heard last session.
Mm-hmm. I like it. And like there's that kind of there's like a kind of light refracting around you that tells us watching that the magics have prepared.
Yeah.
You roll to channel, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And I got a 10.
And that's hold 3, and you don't choose one of the drawbacks, right?
Yep.
Very handy. You've got three 3 hold for that magic at your disposal. Yeften, thoughts on plan of attack here?
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Given that given that I pulled what's her name, Elizabeth Hastings, out of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Does she owe me any debts, or are we going to say that's clear because it's the work she does for me? Meaning like it was just my job to get her out because it was for myself.
Yeah. It's interesting to me to have her owe you a debt. I think she doesn't owe Catherine a debt, even though Catherine also helped with that. But she and Catherine, I think, have a not so friendly relationship. At least, perhaps under the surface. But we know that Catherine looks down on her for consorting with demons, and I think that the frostiness is reciprocated. But yeah, sure, she owes you a debt.
And it's a rule that I don't have any debts this game. That's just the rule.
All right, so I think I would just like to go in the front door.
Yeah. I think a servant answers the door and says, "Whom should I say is calling?"
Tell Lady Hastings the
Go
Corsair is here.
I just wasn't sure if I was beside you.
Oh, if you want to be, you are.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, you guys are both at the door. Very good. The servant nods, and steps away, and then momentarily returns. Bows deeply, and indicates that you are to enter.
Walk in.
Yeah. You find Elizabeth Hastings waiting for you in a sitting room. What very subtle clues are there when you look around the sitting room that her kind of dabbling in devilry has affected this kind of otherwise proper and upstanding house? Catherine first. You know about the occult.
Sure. The area around the fireplace is a bit more charred than it should be, as if things like blast forth from it every now and then.
Yefton, do you see a telling detail?
Yes, the window is barred from the outside as well as from the inside.
Oh man. Yeah, so you get you take these in. Elizabeth says, "My old friends, how good of you to call. What can I do for you on this fine day?" Probably it's still like, drizzling and dark outside, so it's not a fine day by any normal definition.
Can I roll to figure someone out?
You certainly can.
Okay.
And tell me what that looks like. Is it primarily Yefton watching her closely, or
right? Well, I think this is gonna unfold over the course of the conversation.
Yeah.
But like at least not like I'm sizing her up, like trying to assess like, does she have no idea why we're here? Of course, she's asking what we're coming for.
Yeah.
Like what's the read on this greeting, and then onward. That is a 9.
Yeah, I say, oh, we're just paying a visit to old friends after all. You haven't. I mean, it's not as if you've murdered anyone recently.
Oof. Catherine, are you lending a hand to Yefton's figure someone out?
Sure, I guess that's what we'll call this.
I mean, a hit there could push it up to a 10, I think, right? You rolled a 9.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm just being the bad cop.
Yes.
So let's see. I roll plus mortality, right?
Yes.
No, power, because she's a fellow.
Well, no, but like you roll with the person you're helping, not the person
good
that they're targeting.
Yep. Roll plus mortality for Yefton.
And I get a 4.
Well.
Okay. So Yefton will.
You're welcome. Amazingly insulting the people who you're the guest of is not the best course of action. I mean, I didn't bring up her sorcery. I could have brought up that as well. But I think that's very polite.
I think she looks at you levelly, Catherine, and you feel an alien emotion rising in you. Like you came in here, fueled by whatever it is that's fueling you, rage, determination, but you're like gripped with a unnatural panic that's just like pushing you to freak out. I'm going to ask you to make a keep your cool roll, because something weird is going on, and you probably need to get a handle on it, or something worse will happen. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just like eye contact from her, and maybe like the smallest of smiles, and then all of this happening to you internally.
Sure. And that is a 5.
Oh man. Oh, Catherine. We'll jump back in a moment there. Yefton, do you have an opening gambit to this conversation? How are you working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I do is like I'm not yet asking the specific figure someone out questions. I'm just like, this is just me like sort of engaging her in conversation. It says, well, it's come to our attention that you might have a guest, dear to both of us, that, well, may have overstayed his welcome.
Oh, I'm sure we have no guests that have overstayed their welcome. In fact, our only lodgers have just arrived.
Well, I'm wondering if you invited him yourself, or maybe was there someone else who asked you to have him over? And I'm asking who's pulling your character strings.
Yeah. I think she smiles. She says, I assure you, old friend, I am perfectly capable of managing my household. And I think you like, these are all these, these games of euphemism you play. But I think you detect that she's a little upset that you thought there was someone else pulling her strings and she wasn't capable of masterminding her coven's plans on her own.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, I mean, he's a fine man. Why have him here? And I'm asking what your character hoping to get from this.
No. Have you read this? And she pushes a book across to you, and you certainly recognize it. It's King James's Demonology.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating our new monarch's knowledge of the world of those who make pacts with the evil one and what must be done to them. Makes you think. And she like drums her fingers along the cover of the book, and like there's like much more anger in her gesture there than in her voice, which she's keeping keeping level in a practiced way. What's your character hoping to get from your question was,
from kidnapping John D.
Kidnapping John D. She wants to pick his brains to use his mystical knowledge to turn the tables against King James on behalf of the witches of England.
Okay, interesting.
Did you had two to spend there?
Yeah, I'm out of hold. She has one on me.
She has one on you.
And I have some ideas, but you probably want to resolve that keep your cool at some point. And
yeah, Catherine
had a chance to do some stuff.
Catherine, the room disappears for you. I think Yefton, you see Catherine standing there, but kind of staring off into space distractedly. And Catherine, for you were standing on top of a slick black stone pyramid, kind of balanced precariously at the very top of it. The sky above you is red as blood, and where there should be a sun, there's a blot of darkness in the shape of spreading wings with golden eyes in them. What do you do?
I sigh. Must you really be so dramatic?
Yeah, are you putting a name to a face here?
I mean, I assume I recognize the signs. I could certainly be doing that if that's what you're doing. But I'm also just to whoever is giving me this vision. I'm a little bit. I feel it's a bit much.
Yeah. It may be a bit much, but I'll have you put a face to a name with Wild here. Since you recognize you're seeing an angel of one sort or another.
And that's an 11.
Oh,
I don't really think it would be
man.
appropriate for me to have a debt on this person, so I think I'll know something interesting about them.
Yeah, interesting about them seems good. Yeah. Okay. So you are well read enough, and perhaps you've had a perhaps your father had some encounter with this being and told you about it actually. Because you primarily have Engelbert as your patron, uh, or your contact among the angelic hierarchy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you recognize the signs here. You're putting it together now. You'd seen a little glimpse in your mirror, but now now you're not looking through a glass darkly. The black feathers, the golden eyes. This is a angel or demon. Accounts vary. Named Marbus, who is uh, fairly powerful and ancient, known to a number of England's demonologists, but something interesting and useful. Um, yeah, it is possible for a ambitious dabbler to bind this demon to their service, uh, by by taking one of its eyes and wearing the eye as an amulet about them. And I think you see as the wings spread, one wing where the eye that should be at the kind of the hinge of the wing is missing. Do you consider that an interesting and
Yeah.
useful detail to pick up on here? As you
Yes.
take this in, the kind of voice rumbles down to you. Catherine D. Spawn of the great alchemist. Why do you meddle in what will destroy you?
Clearly, the two of us defer on the question of my power.
Do you do something to demonstrate your power, or are you just putting that out there as a?
Yeah, I guess I'll spend a whole just to, because it's not like to channel my elementalism for the scene, just to do that.
So more to put on a show than to launch an attack, though.
Actually, yeah, I guess this sounds more like I'm actually letting it out, right? Because I'm not really attacking with it, because it says spend one hold to attack. I feel like I'm kind of just letting out this power to kind of to make a show of power at him.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a choice. I'll allow it as a spend of the elementalism hold, or let you keep the hold and roll let it out to try to do something impressive.
I'm gonna try to let it out.
Go for it.
And that is a 11 with my now +3 spirit.
Yeah. All right.
And let's see. So what are the options for that again?
Take +1 forward, extend your senses, supernatural or otherwise, frighten, intimidate, or impress your opposition, take definite hold of something vulnerable or exposed. On a hit, you
Yes.
choose one and mark corruption. On a 10+, you either ignore the corruption or choose 2.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take 2 and take the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And as I kind of let my powers to both impress, intimidate, or impress my opposition, as well as to take +1 forward. And as
Describe this display of power.
yeah, and as my power kind of surges forward, shooting like tendrils of light through this land of darkness, I kind of shout at it with my voice kind of taking on an almost choir-like aspect.
Hmm.
I am Catherine D, and yes, I am daughter of John D. But I am a wizard of power in my own right, demon.
The thing kind of the thing's feathers ruffle, and you hear a sound like laughter, but made just of the movement of the wings, and it says, "Very well, a wizard of power in her own right. Now that is interesting. That I will remember."
I know that you are not here, that you are not doing this and I know that you are not doing this of your will, that for now you are bound to another.
An impertinent wizard of power, and like the like it's like one of those weird like rotoscope effects, where the just like the black sun that is Marbus seems to be getting closer to you just by the like space between you contracting into nothingness. And it's kind of like
Yes, I am
looming
certain
over
it.
you.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's looming over you to kind of start reaching to like fill your whole field of vision.
I kind of laugh. I'm certain it's an embarrassment for you. I'm embarrassed for you after all.
What would you suggest? Have you an offer to make me Catherine D, the powerful wizard? Or shall we stew here in mutual embarrassment for an eternity?
Yes, release me, and I shall retrieve your eye for you.
Sounds like you're attempting to persuade an NPC through promises.
Yeah.
Roll
And
it
if it
hard.
succeeds, I'm also marking corruption for this because I'm making a power of something dark and powerful.
Yep.
So that's an 8.
Oh.
Actually, it's just a 7, but that's still a pass.
Yep. A 7, they modify the terms or demand a debt. Acceptable, but when you claim the eye, you must destroy it definitively. Are we clear?
Very well, demon. Now release me before I decide to release this. Before I decide to give you more a show of power.
There's that ruffle of wings, laughter again, but your vision like starts to resolve back to where you were before. You now probably you were out for a touch of the conversation still. Yefton, you had given Elizabeth a hold on you for this.
That was the result of my roll. Yeah.
I think she narrows her eyes a little, and she's like, "I'm curious that you would step into these matters, Yefton. It seemed you were enjoying a more comfortable retirement. What worry has pulled you from your hold?" And so the question she's asking is, what does your character worry might happen? Which you'll answer, out loud or just to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think my response is, we all have debts to pay, and I owe some, same as you, regardless of whether or not I am retired. And I assure you, I am very comfortable in my retirement. the echoes of my past career still haunt me. And so until all of those debts are paid, I can't completely rest. And just to make it clear, like what that's about is like I'm worried. Like I'm a person who owes debts, and I'm worried that if those debts go unpaid, bad things will happen.
Yeah. She nods sagely, like, oh, I understand. I understand.
And speaking of debts, I believe you owe me for that
that
incident,
unpleasantness.
that unpleasantness. Yes.
So you're cashing in a debt.
Yes.
What are you trying to get from Elizabeth on this debt?
So what I'm actually going to want them to do, I want a +3 to persuade.
Oh, okay. So you're cashing in the debt, and then you're rolling persuade to try to get
exactly.
Your way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. John D is a wise man and a powerful man, and it seems unwise to me to keep him ensnared here, whatever powers you may have. Let him go. This doesn't have to come to violence. We will not have to invoke the not insignificant power of his daughter, or
I think Elizabeth like starts grinning at that, but depending on how well this roll goes, this might be right when Catherine breaks free.
Right. The not insignificant skills of his daughter, or quite frankly, my enmity, which retired though I may be, you do not want. So, and this is like a mix of promises and threats, and it's like a little bit, it's like carrot stick.
Little of this, little of that.
Right. But let's all sit down and have a nice conversation, and perhaps the good Master D will share some of his wisdom with you. And if not, well, at least this escapade will have cost you nothing.
Roll that persuade.
That's heart, which I believe is 1. Yep. And then I get +3, so that's +4. That is a 11.
Nice.
7 + 4. I mean, it was kind of hard to go wrong there.
Yeah. Cool. She raises an eyebrow.
And I sorry, do I for the cashing in a debt, do I
Mark Power?
Mark Power? Is she power or wild?
She's power. The nature of power is to make deals with wild. She raises an eyebrow, but she rings a little bell, and I think like probably she's like also scoping that that Catherine seems to be coming out of whatever she was put into, even if she's not fully out yet. And a servant comes and she instructs the servant to bring the guests down to have a conversation.
Man, I didn't even have to use my best laid plan. Well, maybe I still will.
Maybe you still will. My instinct is to cut away here. And go to, well, Francis. After you got some blood from Theophilus, would your next destination be trying to pick up that priest of yours who's gotten mislaid?
Sure.
Whom you saw in a mirror as being at the Tower of London?
Who I saw being an idiot in a mirror in the Tower of London.
Because I just want to do a good old bring them together where Ariel and Francis both end up at the Tower of London. How do folks feel about that?
Sounds good.
So Ariel, you've arrived kind of under cover of night, brought by Barnaby Lodge, who's sort of like, like good-naturedly grumbling all the way, but like in a way that is to remind you that you definitely owe him one for this. He like exchanges a few pleasantries with another guard there. Ends up like taking the other guy's halberd as that guard heads over to where some gambling's going on among a number of these officers, and then he ushers you through, and I think probably points you to where Pentecost is being held. Lord Francis, what's your plan here overall? Like what would how might we see you arriving?
Well, I think I at this point have hired or negotiated the loan of a carriage from another noble, and I want to arrive in full, importance to try and who might I find out is in the cell next to the priest or near the priest.
You want a cover
My
story.
plan is to have been arriving for a different prisoner and then to bribe the individual guard.
Sure, we can say that there's some noble held in the tower for tax things that'll surely be worked out very soon. Everyone understands it's sort of an embarrassment that they're here, and so other noble visitors turning up to see them is not that unusual.
And I feel like non-political bribery is usually not frowned on, so I'd be paying at the door, to be bringing in wine and some nice food for this noble.
I'll give it to you in the interests of moving the scene through to where we want to be. Okay. So you are kind of we'll say you were being ushered by another guard from another direction when probably like across a corridor, you spot Ariel, whom you know to be Faye. Yes, at least whom you know to be helping you harbor one of those priests of yours. And Ariel, I think you proudly make eye contact with Lord Fenton too, kind of both on your way to prisoners here in the tower. What do you do?
I greet him politely. Oh, Lord Francis, I did not expect to see you here.
I draw closer to Ariel, greet her warmly, and say, I'm so grateful for, the work that she's done helping me in the past, and I have another person who's gotten into a bit of a scrape. I'd like to call in my debt on Ariel for introducing me to my sire, in order to get her to use magic to either remove the priest if he's here, or remove memories of him if he's not. So I think what I say, in our slightly coded conversation is, I know you so regret placing me in a position where I might ask you for things until the end of a very, very long life. So perhaps better to let bygones be bygones and help me remove a person I'm sure you'd find differently irritating to me from here and from the memory of anyone else he's bothered.
She'll give you a moment and visibly consider it and then say, I suppose it is the least I can do.
All right, I'm crossing out the debt.
Does that give you both an advancement by virtue of calling in a wild debt and honoring a night debt?
I think so.
Yep.
Well bethought. So Francis, you're trying to figure out if the priest is still here, and you're getting Ariel to agree to either help spirit the priest away or remove memories of him.
Yes.
if he's already gone.
Yep.
Oh, good. We will go ahead and say that Catherine's magic mirror kind of peeked ahead in time when it gave you that glimpse earlier, because that's what's going to work here, so that you guys actually find good old Father Thomas just like, making a covert sign of the cross over Pentecost Jones as she's kneeling by the bars of her cell, and he kind of like turns and, seeing like two kind of well-dressed people at the tower, kind of like goes to, an attitude of just, obeisance, as if he is the, minor functionary he's pretending to be among these cells.
I mean, I think while he's willing to be looking like a servant, my hand comes down heavily on his shoulder. I thrust the basket at him and go, Winston, my good man.
My lord.
You've wandered off helping me find the cell, but I assume you can return to your duties, carrying, fetching, staying, so that I do not need to find an alternate servant and you a extremely different alternate mode of employment. I'm persuading via threats.
Yeah, because I think at first, as you're starting to say this, he's like, my duties, yes, but my duties call me to many more here in this house of sadness.
I think what I say, kind of to really drive home the threat, as I roll +1, I think, yes, +1, is surely your duty calls you to serve where the greatest sinners are. And I suggest you come with me so that I am not forced to descend further to persuade you. That's a 5.
Yeah, he opens his mouth, and you don't hear whatever he was going to say in response to that, because instead you hear, my lord, Earl of Northampton, and you turn and you see there's like a dozen guards now, like rounding the corner of the corridor, and the one at the front is holding some kind of writ in his hand, and he's like, my lord, if you and your man here could come along, there's a few questions that Lord Cecil would like to put to you.
I shoot a look at Ariel. You can react how you like, but my understanding with you is that it's your job to get him out, and my job to go deal with.
Ariel, what do you do?
Yes, I will walk over to the man and say, "Oh, I'm so glad you've come. I actually had a question for you. I'm going to use some fairy magic."
Okay, this is to the leader of this group of guards.
Yes.
Right. What's your fairy magic going to be here?
I'm going to use glamours to create illusions to fool the senses.
Yep. All right.
And I'm going to basically make Pentecost temporarily invisible.
Okay.
I'm going to take
okay. Sorry.
I'm going to take S harm. I'm going to take a harm for that.
Oh, tell me why it's like so kind of like why it damages you, right, in an internal way to cast this particular bit of fairy magic.
I had my great and glorious queen extracted one promise from me today already. I would prefer not to get too much further into her debt too soon.
And you like feel that like twisting feeling inside of you of like kind of drawing on your own vitality to cast this rather than calling on Titania.
Yes.
All right. So you've made the prisoner in the cell invisible, and what do you say?
And I say, yes, guard captain, shouldn't someone be in that cell? And I point like, I was told there was a woman here. Where did she go?
Roll to mislead, distract, or trick someone.
7.
And I also I was listening that time, and I think you didn't tell an outright lie here because you were told there was a woman in that cell, and you might ask where did she go, without that being a lie per se. So on a 7, you get to pick 2 options from the mislead, distract, or trick list.
I'm going to create an opportunity and confuse them for some time.
Hmm. Yeah. The captain's eyes go to the cell. It's clear that there was some sense that this was an important prisoner despite her lowly social status, and so like he blanches. He turns to 2 of his men and he turns and like starts ordering his men, sending them in like different directions through the prison. He doesn't like say anything to kind of countermand what he had just said to Lord Francis, but he's clearly distracted from it majorly, and there's an opportunity for Francis and good old Father Andrew or Father Thomas rather. Yeah, Francis and Father Thomas to escape.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to roll escape. And let's see, that's going to be a plus blood, so +2 again for me. And I'm dragging Father Thomas along with me as I try and like hustle him towards the cell that is empty and go like, hey, gads, we must begin a search, and then just basically barrel through them with the hopes that like guardsmen are uncomfortable actually laying hands on nobles, but I'm not defying them per se. I'm helping. So that's an 8. Let's see. I'm happy to, let's see, I pick 2 here. Owe someone a debt for your escape. It seems very reasonable for me to wind up owing Ariel for this.
Yeah, even though you'd called in a debt on her originally, she's gone ahead and helped you and the priest get out, right? That's kind of above and beyond the initial ask. So go ahead and mark a debt to Ariel.
Yeah, and then I'm inclined to say that as we kind of run down a hallway, one guard winds up alone with me for a moment, and to get past him, I have the option to give into your base nature and mark corruption.
How do you get past this guard in a vampiric fashion?
Yeah, I think. Well, let me pitch you on this, which is I think we're just round a corner as he comes round, and as he turns before he has a chance to see me, the dashing and delightful Lord Francis, I turn into bats. And both like buffet him, feed on him, and also overwhelm him being bats.
Father Thomas sees this?
I'm willing to roll with that. Maybe now he'll listen to me.
Okay. Yeah. You blast your way through, right? And kind of as you're like approaching your carriage again, right, with the priest in tow, like I think you see him, like you see his eyes like wide with shock, and him like clutching under his disguise for what's clearly like the pectoral cross he has hidden, and like on the door, on the step of this carriage, he looks up at you, Francis, and he says, my lord, what are you, and what is this? This is some snare of the devil.
Well, I think yeah, there's not much I can say in my own defense here, but I think I say, Father, I cannot say that I, like you, am as innocent as a dove. but you appear to have none of the shrewdness of serpents. And between the both of us, may the Lord have mercy on us both.
We'll leave you two there for now. I think you've rescued the priest, but raised some major questions in his mind, Lord Francis. Ariel, the guard at a certain point, the guards kind of give up searching the hallway that you're in, right, and kind of fan out further. At some point, they realize that Lord Francis is not, coming with them to answer the questions that Cecil has for him. So you have suddenly some alone time in this corridor. Do you drop the glamour of illusion?
Yes, I think I have to. I just let it fade and say, "Hello, dear Pentecost. I see you found yourself in a spot of trouble."
Yeah, she looks at you, kind of eyes hard, and she says, "Lady Ariel, I have seen such things. England is a realm of monsters."
Yes, dear, but some are on your side.
Great, and we'll cut there for the nonce. Thank you all. Real quickly, there's some end of session moves. Going back across the character sheet. So Lord Francis Fenton first. Did you learn something meaningful about a faction?
I feel like the meaningful thing I learned was primarily about Knight.
Yeah. So increase your score in Knight by 1 and decrease your score in another faction, and tell me how your relationships to those communities have changed.
Let's see. I think I'm going to bump up Knight to 2 and bump down Power to -2, since my dealings with the Lady Wizard were so inconclusive and carriage theft involving.
Extremely fair. Oh, speaking of carriage theft, is there anyone whom you now owe a debt, or whom you now feel
I've got a debt on Catherine,
Yeah,
who
no,
still has my carriage.
I was going to give you the debt on that.
And to be clear, it will not be dissolved when my carriage is returned cleaned.
I know. I mean, it's not being returned to you cleaned, but it's being returned.
Well, mechanically, that will be only 1 debt, but in Francis's
Yes.
heart, that will be 2 debts.
Okay.
Amazing. Catherine, moving right along to you. Did you learn something new, important about a faction?
I'm trying to think if I was actually awake for any of that stuff surrounding the planning on overthrowing King James.
We can say you were coming out of it in time to catch that.
I think I learned something about power then.
Yeah, go for it. You can increase power by 1 and decrease another one by 1.
I think I'm a little bit on the outs with. I feel like I've kind of broken even on my wild dealings this session.
That's one way to look at it.
I guess I'll knock down mortality to 0.
Yeah, fair. Any debts owing or owed to add in?
I think that was the main one. I think everything else was more or less covered by me either paying for stuff with debts. So.
All right, very good. Ariel, things you've learned about a faction.
I've learned the Fey courts have a continued interest in London, so I think that goes up.
Yeah, increase wild and another faction going down.
I'm gonna decrease power.
just because of that conversation with Catherine.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
I buy it. Any new debts, either that you feel someone owes you or that you owe to someone?
I don't think so.
Okay. We covered a new debt Francis owes you as he's making his escape. And Yeften, a faction that you've learned more about. Change in relationship with factions.
Definitely learned more about power.
I buy it.
So I'm bumping that up from -1 to 0. And I think, I think I'm gonna say that, like, as I'm getting drawn more into these intrigues, I'm just like losing touch with mortality a little bit.
Yeah, sad to say. Decrease your mortality there. Any new debts you feel are
I
put on
don't
the
think
table?
so. I
All
don't
right.
think so.
Very good. Well, once more, thank you all for playing. This has been Urban Shadows London 1604. We'll be back with 3 of us next week and a newcomer, and we'll get to see what happens when we throw a hunter into this mix. So good night. Good playing with you all. And if anyone's watching this broadcast, good to have you. Have a good night.